This is an additional segment that we're doing with Access Module 5 that looks at different ways of combining and or criteria and determining how to combine them based on the wording of the questions. So first we're going to take a look at a PowerPoint with some examples. This is a list of all the different types of queries that you need to know for your case exam that's coming up. So you can see this is all of the queries we've gone over, and in addition, one of the common mistakes is usually on these combinations of and or. So I want to make sure you have a review for that. So if this is in our data set, and two of the fields that we were looking at were the country and the rate. So perhaps these are rental properties or something. And our initial requirement says that the country could either be in France or Italy, and the rate could either be 1,700 or 2,000. So some students might choose to do it this way, using list of values and putting everything on the same row. Other students might say, looking at each column individually, France or Italy, 1,700 or 2,000. You're going to get very different results depending on which way you choose. The way Access works is it does the AND combinations that are on the same row before it combines the ORs. So in this case, it's saying France or Italy and 1,700 or 2,000. So in this example, we would get records 1 and 2 as the correct answers, or as the answers in the record set. Now this way it's going to combine the ands first. So it's going to say France and 1,700 or Italy and 2,000. So you would get no records. In this example, the top one is correct because they have combined France and Italy both with the rates 17 or 2,000. So it needs to be this top way. Excuse me. We could reword the question with the exact same data and say, in France, I'm willing to pay 1,700. But in Italy, I know that if I only pay 1,700, I'm not going to be in a very nice neighborhood, so I need to pay the 2,000 in Italy. We still could combine them the same way, but we would get 1 and 2. And we would get none. In this case, based on the way the wording of the question, the bottom one is the correct option, because in France I'm willing to pay 1,700, but in Italy I'm not willing to pay 1,700. So Italy and 2,000 have to be combined together, not Italy and 1,700. Now here's another example. I want to see all the properties with a rate of 1,700, or if I'm in France, I want to see those that have 2,000. So one student might choose to say France and 1,700 or 2,000, so that would give me record 1. Another student might do it this way and say France is supposed to combine with 2,000. 1,700 is by itself. That's going to give me 1, 2, and 3. And the bottom one would be correct based on the wording of the question. So I can't say to you that it's always going to be one way or another. It depends on how the question is worded and how they group those criteria in the wording of the question. All right, so now let's go ahead and get into our Access database. we're going to work with the clinic database. We're going to go through 5 examples so you can see what those are. So example number 1, we're going to locate customers who live in Atlanta or Stone Mountain. Oh, this should read patients, not customers. On all of these examples, they're patients, not customers. So we'll fix that real quick. All right. So in example 1, we're going to look at all the patients who live in Atlanta or Stone Mountain and had a visit date prior to 12/31/2020. So we're going to go over and we're going to create a query. So I'm going to go to Create and Query Design. I'm going to add my patient table and my visit table. I like to enlarge my boxes so I can see all the fields. All right, we're going to add the patient ID, the last name, the first name, their city, and the visit date. Now in this example, we said they have to live in Atlanta or Stone Mountain, and both of those are going to combine with the visit date. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to, under the city field, I'm going to say in Atlanta and Stone Mountain. Creating a list of values. Since both of these criteria have to combine with the visit date, I want them on the same row. And I'm going to say before, so less than 12/31/2020. Since both cities have to combine with the visit date, you want all of it on the same row. We're going to click Run. And now you see the records that meet that criteria. So we're going to say File, or we're going to say, excuse me, Save. We're going to call this Additional01. And then I'm going to close it. I'm going to take a copy of Additional 1 and I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to call it Additional 2. Then I'm going to make sure I open up Additional 2 to make changes to it. Right, so we're going to use the same fields. So let's take a look at how this criteria is worded. In example 2, we want to locate all patients who live in Atlanta and those in Stone Mountain that have that visit date prior to 12/31. So if I get back into my query, Stone Mountain now is the only city that combines with the date. So I'm going to have Stone Mountain on the same row with the date. Atlanta, I want everyone in Atlanta. It doesn't combine with anything, so I'm going to put it on a row by itself. So it becomes the OR. Now we'll click Run, and you can see we get a different set of answers for Additional 2. We're going to make a copy of this, and we're going to paste it. I'm going to go ahead and paste it 2 more times as well. I'm going to call them additional 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to then right click and paste again. Oops, we already have 3. This one's got to be 4. And then we'll paste one more time. Make this one additional 5. Alright, so we're going to close additional 2 and we're going to open up additional 3. Let's take a look at what criteria we have for this one. Now we want to look at the patients who live in Atlanta and have visit dates between 2 dates, 12/1/2020 and 1/31/2021. So I don't want Stone Mountain anymore. I just want Atlanta, so I'm going to go ahead and put Atlanta on this row. I don't need Atlanta twice. Now, for between 2 dates, it's pretty simple. You're going to type the word between, and then the first date, 12/1/2020, and 1/31/2021. So now you can see it's combining Atlanta with that date range. So you see we get a different set of results. Let's go ahead and save that and close it. We'll open up number 4. Let's see what number 4 does. Number 4 says I want everyone in Stone Mountain who has visit dates between those dates. And then I want anyone who lives in Atlanta. So again, when we get into our database, Stone Mountain has to have the date range in it combined with it. So we're going to put in here between 12/1/2020 and 1/31/2021. Atlanta goes on a row by itself because it's not combining with the dates. So when we run, we can see we get a different set. We get Atlanta people that do not have that date range. Our Stone Mountain people are only within that date range. And we have one more example to look at. In example number 5, we want all the patients who do not live in Atlanta and have visit dates between those 2 dates. So now we're going to come in here, we're going to delete Atlanta, and we're going to say in the city, not Atlanta. And then in the visit date, we're going to say between 12/1/2020 and 1/31/2021. And now you can see you get every city except Atlanta that have those visit dates. So you can see when we're combining the and/or combinations, let's go ahead and open all 5 of these. You can see that you get very different answers depending on how you group these criteria. Here, both cities are combining with one date range. In this scenario, one of the cities is combining with the date range, but the other one includes all dates. In this example, we have one city, but it's within a group of dates. So some students would try to do these betweens as greater than or equal to 1221 and less than or equal to 131, but that is much harder. So if you just remember that you can do between date 1 and date 2, it makes that combination so much easier. This next one was combining the same range of dates with one city, but the other city is not being combined with any dates. So it's everyone in that city. And the last one, we were looking at not. It's not in this city. And we get a list. Some students would try to come up with a list of all of the other cities except Atlanta. You do not want to do that because you don't want to have to sit there and look through the data looking for every option. So you need to remember that you can use the word not in front of a criteria to include everything except that city. And that concludes our segment on AndOr combinations.